Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. For those that are new, my name is Lauren and I post everything food, fitness, lifestyle and now running related. I completed my first ever run race last Sunday. I did my first ever half marathon. I've never done anything shorter than that before, but it was my first race and I completed it in 1 hour, 55 minutes and 34 seconds. I was so chuffed and it was such a journey for me. I mean, I've been running for quite a while now and I really wanted to set myself a goal. So I signed up a good 6 months prior, quite a while before, because one of my friends had signed up to do the Manchester Marathon, so I felt inspired to give the half marathon a go because she did that prior to that. But today's video is going to be about how to prepare for your first half marathon, because I definitely had a lot of help and I know that some people don't have that privilege, so I wanted to share everything that I learned so that you can take it and use it to run your first ever 5k, 10k, half marathon. I'm not definitely qualified to talk about a marathon distance yet, but I definitely would say that all of this would be applicable for any distance shorter than a half marathon. But this is just my experience. This is what I've learned. I'm not a professional runner. This is just my opinion as a personal trainer, as well as a running enthusiast and someone that has met lots of incredible runners along her journey. I've asked lots of great questions and I've managed to gather lots of good information that I will now want to share with you guys. Number one is choose a race that gives you enough time to train. Because a half marathon is 21 kilometers, it's quite a significant distance. Your body needs to adapt and develop to be able to cope with that level of impact. It's more to do with your body adapting rather than the cardiovascular side, because most people are fine to push themselves through a marathon, but it's more the injuries that might take place if they just throw themselves straight into it. So you definitely want to be in a good place with running comfortable 5Ks before you start training for your half marathon. For me, I started training 6 weeks out officially, but I was running quite a lot before then, already doing some longer runs anyway. But make sure that you've got some solid 5Ks in the bank already. Tip number 2 is find a good training plan that is suited to you and stick to it. It doesn't matter if you miss a day here or there, but do really try to stick to those longer runs that maybe you want to put off because they are super long. They might take you an hour or two, but they are the ones that matter the most here. I just followed a standard half marathon program and I will leave it below, but I basically tweaked it to just improve my speed. So I did 3 runs a week, typically. Sometimes I would throw in an extra run. I would typically do a tempo run on a Monday morning where I'd really push my pace, push my speed and try get a PB in the distance that I'm doing. Then I would do an interval session. Sometimes I'd go to Barry's to do that. And then I would do a longer session. So that longer run, which is definitely the most important when it comes to training for your half marathon, that is the session you do not want to miss. But with this training program, as the weeks progress, the distance of each run also progresses slowly so that your body can adapt. And then you get to a certain point and then just before the race, it should taper off a little bit just to keep your legs feeling refreshed before the run. And then that final week, you shouldn't be doing a long run. You should let your legs recover, just do a couple of short runs. And if you do decide to do a shake-off run the day before, then definitely only stick to 20 to 30 minutes and do no more than 5K, because I did 6K and I definitely regretted it, but I got a bit carried away and it was my first ever half marathon. And you guys can learn from my mistake, but my legs defo didn't feel 100% fresh the next day. So do a shakeout run, but you want to keep it chill. You want to make sure that you're just kind of easing your legs out a bit and you're not really pushing yourself. But yes, a good program that is suited to you is super important. You can work with a coach or you could use the one that I used below and I just tweaked it for myself slightly. Tip number 3 is invest in a quality pair of running trainers. I actually have 3 pairs just because I'm a little shoey and 3 pairs is actually amazing if you can afford it. If you can't, then I will explain. So these were my 3 pairs of shoes that I wore mostly for my training. I do have other shoes, but these were definitely my favorites. So this first pair this black pair are Hoka Gavitova 4s. I did the quiz online and it recommended me these shoes because I've got a wider foot and I've also got a bit of pronation. So these are a stability shoe. They're wider fit and I use them for the majority of my mileage. So I do majority of my training in these shoes. So these would be the ones I would reach for majority of the time. And if there was only one pair of shoes that you could afford, it would definitely be just these that I would have got. But they were definitely well worth it. And I think they do like a 30-day returns policy on these shoes. So I kind of bought them thinking, I'll give them a go. Not sure if I'll like them. And then I was absolutely sold, but they were really comfortable. And I did actually get some good times in these shoes, even though they're not specifically fast shoes. They are super comfortable. They keep you feeling like you're moving forwards. But I definitely could do a whole video on why these shoes are all great. Then this was the shoe that I would typically wear for my interval session. If I went to Barry's, you would see me in these fluorescent shoes on the treadmills. These are the Adidas Boston 10s, but these shoes are great. They help you feel faster. They're an in-between an everyday shoe and this shoe that I wore on race day because it's got a slightly similar midsole, but they're a little bit firmer. And then these shoes are my prized possession, the Adidas Adios Pro 3s. They're beautiful and they're also so fast. They're gonna help you get a PB the first time you put them on. They definitely did for me. They just help me run from strength to strength. They are so bouncy, they're so energy giving, they're incredible shoes. And these are the shoes that the pros run their marathons in. So if the pros are wearing them, then I wanna be wearing them, but they're definitely well worth it. And they got me through the half and they definitely help with recovery. I definitely feel much less impact go through my legs when I wear these shoes because they are so bouncy compared to the other two. But you don't have to get 3 pairs of shoes. You can just get one quality pair of shoes that fit your feet. If you do have pronation, which is where your foot arch is collapsed and you maybe run with slightly flat feet, or it could be the other way and you could have supination. It's important to have a shoe that fits your foot. So I definitely recommend going to a specialist running store and having them look at your gait and figuring out what shoe will work best for your foot, because there's nothing worse than getting an injury. Looking after your feet is important, especially when you're running so much. Tip number 4 is find a running partner, because some of these runs are pretty long, like anything upwards of 10k takes a bit of time. You're out there for a while and it makes it go by so much faster if you've got a running partner. So I've got a few friends that are into running, so I messaged them and we'd arrange to do our longer runs together. And because your longer runs aren't quite as fast, you usually can have a chat whilst you're doing them. You get the run done, but you also get a little mini therapy session with the girls, yeah, talk about your days, etc. So yeah, I really found that really helpful. And if you do have someone that's also signed up for the same race as you, some people find it quite nice to run together on the day as well. It's quite motivating. And it just means it's less nerve-wracking as well. Tip number 5 is don't neglect the power of strength training. So I'm such a big advocate of the gym. I didn't change my gym schedule around this run. I just did what I always do. I did 1 push session, 1 lower session, and then 2 kind of upper lower sessions a week. So I was hitting lower 3 times a week. And that to some people might sound a lot, but because I train my lower body so much, it definitely helped with my recovery. I know for people that are just runners that don't want to invest that much time into weightlifting, doing just 1 45-minute lower body strength session a week is going to help you massively. So don't neglect your strength training, because it's going to really progress your runs. It's going to help you recover faster and run better. So definitely incorporate that if you don't already. So tip number 6 is to carb up 24 to 72 hours before your race. So the proper pro runners that I've met, they carb up for up to 72 hours before, focusing on white carbs, just things that are really easily digestible. But for someone that maybe isn't so bothered about winning the race, you probably only need to carb up 24 hours before. So that's what I did. And I didn't do it to the extent where I'm going to bed literally sick to my stomach because I've got so many carbs in me. You want to make sure that you're kind of just eating a bit more than you usually would. You want to be replicating kind of what you're used to, because if you do anything too different, too close to the day, you don't know how it's going to react with your body, and runner's gut is the worst, and you do not want to be midway through your run and then just feel something drop in your stomach. For example, the day before I had carbs throughout the day, and then at dinner time I went out for dinner, I had a pho. So I had some rice noodles. I also got some bao buns, which were really nice. And then we also had some dessert for some extra carbs too. And then the morning of, I had my usual breakfast, which I probably in hindsight would have changed. So I had my usual eggs, tomatoes and sourdough, but I think I probably would have been better without the tomatoes and maybe without the eggs as well, because all you really need in your stomach on the day is the carbs. But I was so under the impression that I didn't want to change anything, so I just wanted to keep it the same. But I should have probably tried out having maybe some oats before a run, but because I hadn't tried it in my runs prior, I didn't want to try it on the day. But that leads nicely on to point number 7, is to not try anything new the day of or the day before the race, which maybe I took to extreme, because I definitely should have had a different breakfast, but I should have practiced it beforehand. So with the longer runs that you're doing in the lead up, I definitely would recommend practicing the kind of food that you think you'd eat on the day of the race, so that you can see if it sits well in your gut, and then you know that it's going to feel good on the day. You know how it's going to feel in your stomach. Your stomach's not going to be like, what the hell is this? And you know how much energy it's going to give you, whether you need a bigger portion, etc. Also, don't try any new gear. Like, you don't want to put on a new pair of shorts you've never worn before. A new pair of shoes, definitely an absolute no-go. I saved these shoes for just a couple of weeks before my half marathon. I only wore them about 3 or 4 times before the actual day, just so that they were nice and fresh, but also that I'd worn them and I'd kind of got used to the feel of them as well. I know a lot of people will get a new pair of shoes for the day of the marathon or half marathon, and then they'll put them on, get the worst blisters, their feet won't be adapted to the shoes, and then yeah, the race is just really unenjoyable. So you definitely do not want to try anything new. Just keep it the same, keep it simple, just do what you know works for you. Also, practicing using gels can be really helpful, because I didn't have a gel until about kilometer 12, but I definitely in hindsight wish I'd taken it sooner, and that's just because I didn't really practice with gels. So I definitely should have done that. But leading on to point number 8, consider getting a running vest, gels, all these little runners things that are definitely going to help it be a more enjoyable experience for you. Gels are super easy to get some carbs in, and they're just easy to fit into your running vest or your sports bra. I know you can get some sports bras where you can slip in gels, and an armband can be great to keep your phone on if you want to track your pace, or a running vest like I wore where you can slip your phone in, and you can even fit water bottles in running vests as well, which can be really useful. I also took a spare headset, so I had my usual running headphones and I also had my AirPods tucked away just in case something happened to one pair of them, because I knew that if times got tough and I needed music, I'd want a backup. So I did take 2, maybe that's a bit too overcautious, but yes, that is the kind of thing that maybe you want to think about, just to make sure it's a very enjoyable experience, because there's nothing worse than having a bad 21-kilometer run. You might also want to think about getting some running socks, because I just wore normal socks and I didn't think about the blisters that might take place, because in my practice runs I didn't really get many blisters, but something happened on the day and I do regret not having running socks, and that is something that a lot of runners have told me I should have invested in. Tip number 9 is to go with a game plan. So check out the race, check out the route, get to know where you're running, whether there's going to be hills, etc., and figure out what pace you want to be running at, what you want to aim for. Maybe have an aspirational pace and then the pace that you want to at least run at to hit your goal. That's what I did. So I ran between 5 and 5:40, so it did vary quite a bit in the end, but it averaged out at around 5:20 pace on the day, which I was really happy with, because it got me that sub 2-hour half marathon, which is what I wanted. Tip number 10 is to lay everything out the night before. I put everything over there on my dresser, and I made sure that my running number was there, my full outfit including underwear and socks, my shoes were laid out, I had all my gels laid out, my headphones. The only thing that I forgot was the pins for the running number, and on the morning of the race I was running around my apartment trying to find these pins. So do not forget your pins, because you're going to need them, and I could not find them for the life of me. I managed to find 2 pins in the end, and I was worried that it wasn't going to pin my race number down enough. You want the morning to be as stress-free as possible, so things like that are definitely going to help take that out of your mind, and you can just wake up, get ready, eat, get dressed and go. Tip number 11 is go to the toilet right before the race. I went to the toilet at my flat before we got there, and because I didn't leave enough time, I got too stressed and didn't go to the toilet when I got to the race, which was a definite error because I did need a wee as the run went on, and it actually put me off wanting to hydrate on my runs, which was not a good idea because it was blazingly hot and I definitely needed to drink water, and that definitely did have me struggling. So my stomach did feel quite heavy and uncomfortable, and there's nothing worse than feeling like you need the toilet, but I got through it. My bladder did feel quite heavy for the majority of the run, but you know, mind over matter, we got through. But I would definitely go to the toilet at the place. The queues were really long, but definitely get in that queue and wait. Tip number 12 is to have some distractions planned. So whether it be some good music, get some playlists prepped, a good podcast, or whether you just want to think about certain things for certain kilometers. Or one thing that I quite liked was just to scout out people's shoes, and whoever had a nice pair of shoes, I'd follow them for a bit, because usually if they've got nice shoes then they're probably going to be keeping their pace up a bit, so that would keep me going. I also liked watching the people that had already turned back run past to see if I could spot anyone that I knew in the crowd, but I know not every race is like that where the lanes are back to back, but that could also be something to distract you for a bit. But do just make sure you're still going at your pace, because I think at one point it did have me slowing down because I was like scouting the crowd to find someone, and then, you know, you're not really focused on moving forward yourself. Tip number 13 is to understand that sometimes it might not go to plan. The weather could be different. You might end up forgetting something even though you've done all this prep, and something might happen that might throw you off. But at the end of the day, if you complete a half marathon, that is incredible. Even if you don't get the time that you set yourself out to get, just completing a half marathon is incredible in itself. So do give yourself some credit, even if you maybe are a little bit disappointed in yourself. That was something that I did toy with, because at one point I thought maybe I'm not going to get the sub 2 hours, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. As long as I got it done, that is all you can do. You can only do your best. And my last point, tip number 14, is to just enjoy it. It is such an incredible experience. There is not many times where you go on a run and there's people cheering you in the streets that you don't even know. The buzz is incredible. There's so many people there running with you. It's an incredible community to feel part of. And you're running amongst all these incredible people. People are fundraising for all these incredible charities. It's just such a good vibe. And the buzz, honestly, has you on so much adrenaline. So for the first good 5-10 kilometers, I didn't even put in my music. So I definitely would lap up the experience and save your music for when it does start to get a bit tough and the crowd starts to dwindle, before you hit that home straight at the end when everyone's cheering you on again, and then you go in for your sprint finish. But they are all of my tips as to how to prepare for your first ever half marathon. So I hope you found them super helpful, and do let me know in the comments if you want me to do more running videos, because it is something that I'm semi-new to, but I actually do feel like I've got a good grasp on now, and I do love helping other people feel empowered to run. There's so many friends and family that I've got into running just since I started my own running journey. Please do like and subscribe for weekly videos, and I will see you again next time. Bye!